My name's Rob Walker. I've been labelled a service user. I've been the user of services for the past 20 years. I left school at 16 with a handful of O-levels, and I thought to myself, I want to go into sales, I want to go into marketing. I joined a small roof tile manufacturer. At the age of 21, I left that company, started with a large international chemical manufacturer as a assistant sales office manager, then worked my way up to sales office manager, and I was the youngest manager for that company in Europe at the time, so I got a lot of responsibility very early on in my life, and I took my job very, very seriously. For me, it was becoming all-consuming. I'd do anything virtually to get the business. Looking back, I didn't realise that at the time, I was becoming really unwell. Layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of stress, building up to the level. I mean, we've all heard about the bucket of water that overflows. Well, maybe my bucket had been overflowing for some time and I hadn't realised it. It was only on Friday night, having worked a whole week, and I was absolutely exhausted, totally fatigued, and I recall going to bed and the whole room was spinning, heart racing, thoughts coming into my mind at a rapid rate of knots, and I just felt totally out of it, panicky. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't do this job. I can't do this job, and just really feeling very, very, very unwell. The GP just diagnosed anxiety with what was called reactive depression, prothiodyne medication, which were antidepressants, without telling me what they were or any sort of side effects. I was drowsed up. I felt, my brain felt headachy, which I'm thinking, looking back, thinking, well, that wasn't particularly brilliantly supportive, was it? Just take your medication and come back in X number of weeks. Then I met a really, really smashing girl who I went on to marry. And then when we had our first child, it was decided that I would take on the role of house husband. When the negative impact of my ongoing mental health was affecting my relationship with my wife, and the marriage ultimately broke down in around about 2002, 2003, I thought, I've had enough now. I want a future. I don't just want a future for me, but I want a future for me with my children. People always see me as this happy, upbeat sort of bloke, but when I come home and shut that door, it's a whole different story. But I don't show that face to many people, because I've got to stay well to maintain that relationship. Sometimes it may be all that service users want is possibly for a period of time, consideration of what their real issues are, whether it's relationship issues, employment issues, or financial issues that are causing those stresses. Don't automatically go and think, oh, okay, this is a medical model, so therefore we'll go down the medication pathway. I think I'd far rather have somebody sat down with me and said, okay, Robert, what we need to do now is look at some vocational guidance. You're never going to get back into sales, but let's look at what skills and abilities you've got. Let's look at the transferable skills that you have, and let's see where it will take you. Active listening skills, for me, are the order of the day. I think we've got to try and address that balance of where the voluntary sector is operating. I know in this neck of the woods there needs to be some more work done in that field, and that's why for me, my local chapel, my local Methodist chapel, they've very much taken on the baton and said, okay, unknowingly, we'll act as Robert's support service or counselling service.
Robert was always edgy. He was a little bit brittle, and he was always very, very, very on a tight string, and you could tell. And so really and truthfully, he just needed somebody to talk to really, and somebody to listen.
He acts as an advocate for me because they are few and far between. I know that if I am unwell and I need the support, as I did when I was going through the court process for access to my children and for division of the assets, he was there. And I couldn't have done that without him.
I think he's still got a long way to go, but I think his faith is helping him. Not through the church knowing anything about these things, but just the fact that it's there for him. And I can readily understand why the professionals haven't got the time, they're too busy. But I think that possibly that the thing that hasn't gone on in the past is that we haven't worked together. And I think there is a place for the health professionals and the church and other organisations to work more closely together, and I think probably this is one of the problems. It's always been us and them sort of thing, whereas it should be more of a joint effort.
Just after the marriage had split up, it coincided with a phone call from the Cheshire World Partnership, and they said, "Rob, could you possibly come down and do a lived experience talk for us?" And that was at the Caxton Wood Hotel, and it coincided with the launch of the Mindful Employment Charter. And then that led me into a pathway of engagement on what's known as patient and public involvement. And it's something that I take very, very seriously. It's something that gives me a purpose to my life now. You know, I can get up in the morning and think, yeah, I'm actually hopefully going to make a difference. And I'm pleased to say that, you know, working as I do on a voluntary capacity with the World Partnership, I can see some really good moves taking place. I mean, I've met some really outstanding staff that, you know, as their car sticker says that they have on the back of the windows of the car, they can be proud to work in mental health, because I think anybody that works in that field really does deserve really wide acknowledgement.